the Excursion. We were going to Portrush on the Excursion train with Aunt Maggie for a day out. We boarded the train in Antrim and she was going to join us in Ballymena. It was quite an undertaking for my mother to get myself, my brother and 3-year-old twins to the station and onto the train. The double pushchair was big and clumsy, and as well as holding the twins, it was hung with bags containing all the paraphernalia that young children would need on a day away from home. At Ballymena station, a huge crowd pressed to join the train. But there was no sign of Aunt Maggie. Where was she? What if she couldn't get a ticket? How would we manage if she didn't get on? My mother, in her cotton summer dress, was anxiously hanging out the window, and I saw her face light up with relief as she waved and called, "Over here, Maggie, over here." Aunt Maggie struggled on. She had more bags and sweets for everyone. There were no seats, and I squeezed up beside my brother Barney to make room for her. The train was big and noisy and puffed out great clouds of dense smoke. The sheep and sometimes the cows ran away from us as we chugged through their fields. We were still a long way from the sea, about an hour, but we watched to see who could see it first. The twins fell asleep on my mother's and Aunt Maggie's knees. They didn't know what the sea was. I don't think Barney remembered either. He was only 4. And then suddenly, there it was. And it went on forever with little boats on it. And there was sun and yellow sand. I was very excited. But it was not easy to get everyone off the train. The twins didn't like being wakened and were crying. The station was huge and full of people all pushing to get out through the gates. I was afraid I would be swept away. My mother said if I got lost, I must go and stand below the big clock. But I wasn't going to get lost, so I held on tightly to the pram. And then we were free. The beach was enormous, the sea was cold, and I got a ride on a donkey. The sandwiches had sand in them, but I didn't mind. The twins had fallen in the sea and soaked their last set of clothes. They were dressed in a blanket and my mother's cardigan until their clothes, which were hung over the pram, could dry in the sun. The tide was coming in. Barney had made a moat round his sandcastle for the sea to fill, but he got upset because the castle was washed away too. Then Aunt Maggie suggested that we go to a cafe for tea. It was a real cafe with tablecloths and waitresses in black dresses with tiny little white aprons and hats. I'm going to have a cafe when I grow up. We got afternoon tea with scones and a selection of fancy cakes. There were 6 cakes. I chose the one with the pink icing. It was hard and wasn't as nice as it looked, so I had a butterfly bun as well, and then I felt sick. There were 2 scones left. Eat them into you, Aunt Maggie said, and finish the cream in that jug. She poured it into Barney's cup. The twins were feeding each other and the floor with bits of bun. The nice waitress, who said madam, was looking across and was watching us. Put them scones in that bag, says Aunt Maggie. You'd be glad of them for a cup of tea when you get home tonight. The waitress is watching, I whispered. That's all right, we paid for them. Waste not, want not. I didn't look at the waitress anymore. I knew she was looking at me. As we straggled out of the cafe and headed for the train station, I saw her out of the tail of my eye as she reached for a floor brush to repair the damage. Because I wasn't looking where I was going, I fell down the step and grazed my knee. But my tired mother had little sympathy to spare for me. The train was not so crowded on the way home. The twins were able to lie down on the seats in their damp clothes and sleep. and Barney, propped against my mother, put his thumb in his mouth and drifted off too. "Well, child, did you enjoy your day out?" Aunt Maggie asked. "Yes, thank you," I said, but I closed my eyes and thought about it so they wouldn't ask me any more questions. When I have my cafe, children who make a mess of the floor won't be allowed in.